Hello and welcome to How to Convince Your Friends You're Good at Cooking, the show that teaches uni students or anyone else willing to learn how to make good homemade food on a budget. My name's Josh and I'll be providing the voiceover for our cook today, also me. Hello there, give us a wave. Nice. Now, I'm not a professional chef, but I can make good, crowd-pleasing food that all of my friends and family love to eat and do it on a student budget. So now, I'm going to teach you how. This series will provide some delicious recipes to act as a starting point to build up your repertoire and get started with your own style of cooking. So, with that all out of the way, let's get started with our first recipe, mac and cheese. Other Josh, if you would be so kind as to kick things off by showing our ingredients to the audience. Macaroni, butter, flour, milk, garlic, sour cream, Dijon mustard, cheese, tortilla chips, Worcester sauce, salt and pepper, paprika and nutmeg, and oil. So to our pasta water, we are going to add some salt. This will give the pasta some flavour so it doesn't completely disappear in the dish. We're also going to add a splash of oil to the water. This oil won't add any flavour at all, but it will stop the pasta all sticking together both when cooking and when we put it to the side later on. Now you can bring your water up to the boil, and once it's there you are ready to add your pasta. So get it all in there, but make sure to give it a stir in order to coat it in that oil to yet again make sure it does not stick. Now when you're cooking your pasta, you don't actually want to cook this all the way through. This is known as al dente. You know this is ready when you can put your fork through the pasta, but when you eat it, it's still a little bit crunchy. That is perfect. Now that your pasta is done and ready to go, you're ready to get started on the most important part of the mac and cheese, the cheese sauce. So now I'll move on to teaching you today's key skill, Béchamel. Now that's a scary French word for what is essentially a white sauce, and it is known as a mother sauce. This means that it acts as a base for multiple sauces, and it's all just dependent on how you flavour it. Of course, this week we'll be making it into a cheese sauce. Now when making a Béchamel, you need to remember this easy ratio. 2:250. This basically means for every 250 milliliters of milk, you will need 2 teaspoons of butter and 2 teaspoons of flour to make it into a Béchamel. Oh, so we're over here now. Brilliant. First of all, we need to get our 2 teaspoons of butter into the pan. So once your butter's melted, we're going to do a step that isn't usually included in a Béchamel, which is adding some garlic that I diced earlier. Now the reason we're doing this is because garlic and cheese are a match made in heaven, but if you weren't making a cheese sauce and just making a regular Béchamel, you would not do this. So once your garlic's been added to your butter, allow it to cook for a little bit, but no longer than 30 seconds to a minute. You don't want that garlic burning and becoming bitter. You just want it to cook through, become fragrant and a bit golden and mellow out to make your sauce even more delicious. Once that's happened, get your flour in and whisk it together. It should form an almost crummy, doughy-like thing, like this. This is what's known as a roux. If your roux's a bit too thin, add a bit more flour. Just make sure it's this kind of consistency, a doughy, crummy texture. Now that you have your roux, you should leave it for about 30 seconds just to let it cook through a little bit. This gets rid of that raw flour taste that you really don't want as a background flavour of your sauce. It's time to add the milk. Now, this is when usually people get scared because it can get lumpy here if your roux does not get properly incorporated. Add your milk cold. You also want to add your milk in small batches, because the thing is, you can make your sauce thinner, but you can't make it thicker. Well, you can, but that takes a lot more time and effort to do. First, add a batch of milk and get it from a dough to a paste, and it should look like this. Once that's all incorporated, you can add more of your milk to try and get it from a paste to a sauce. And it should look like that. It's now time for the most exciting part, adding your flavours. Of course, this starts with cheese. Now personally, I'm using mature cheddar for a sharper tang and double Gloucester for a more creamy, mellow flavour. Now, what cheeses you use is completely up to you. If you look in the article linked below, I have done a complete breakdown of how different cheeses melt and how that can affect your sauce. And in terms of amount, do whatever you want. Just keep tasting and watching the texture along the way and stop when you are satisfied. In terms of additional flavours, I'm adding salt, pepper and paprika. If you want a reason for those, check out my seasoning guide where there's a breakdown on every single one of those and why you should include them in your foods. However, I'm also bringing 3 new people to the party, including Worcester sauce, Dijon mustard and nutmeg. Now these are things that I would consider cupboard essentials, but if you want to know more about them, there is yet again a breakdown in the article to do with my mac and cheese down below, explaining every single one of these ingredients and why I think it will really change your mac and cheese game. So once you've incorporated all of your additional flavours, stirred it around, given it a taste, and you're completely happy with what you've made, it's time to bring your mac to the party. Dump all of your macaroni into your sauce and stir it around until each individual noodle is coated and filled with that delicious cheesy creamy sauce. Once it's all mixed together and beautifully coloured, you're ready for the final steps of your mac and cheese journey. Decant it into your baking dish and spread it evenly so everything cooks at the same time. Now you're ready to make your crispy cheesy topping, which just starts with sprinkling some melted cheese all over the top to make it all nice and gooey and golden, followed by my favourite step, some crushed up tortilla chips to give that extra crunch. Now you're ready to put it into a preheated 180-degree oven for about 20 minutes, or until the top is gooey, golden and delicious. You'll probably be able to tell this on eye. For reference, here is my finished macaroni cheese. You're now going to leave it for about 5 minutes. You do this to let it cool down, both so you don't burn your mouth and so it holds its shape a little bit better so you can get this beautiful slice that you're going to serve to your very impressed dinner guests. In fact, here are mine now. Why don't we see what they think? Brilliant. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. We'll be trying to get a cooking skills / recipe video out every 2 weeks. If you want more details on the recipe I'm using, as well as all the stuff that I've talked about during the course of this video, look down in the description below for both my seasoning guide and my mac and cheese recipe guide.